Abduction and arrival. Jake Miller was having a perfectly ordinary Tuesday evening when his world quite literally turned upside down. One moment he was walking home from his shift at the local diner. The next he was engulfed in a blinding blue light and felt his feet leave the ground. As the initial shock wore off, Jake found himself floating upwards at an alarming rate. The familiar streets of his small Midwestern town rapidly shrank below him until they were nothing more than pinpricks of light. His heart raced as he realized with growing panic that he was being abducted. "Hey, what's going on? Put me down," Jake shouted, though his voice was lost in the vacuum of space that now surrounded him. The blue light intensified, and Jake felt himself being pulled faster and faster away from Earth. Stars streaked past in blurs of white as he accelerated to impossible speeds. Just as the G-forces threatened to overwhelm him, everything went black. Jake awoke with a start, his head pounding. He blinked rapidly, trying to adjust to the dim purple light that suffused wherever he now found himself. As his eyes focused, he realized he was in some sort of holding cell. The walls were made of a strange, slightly translucent material that pulsed faintly. There was no obvious door that he could see. "Hello," Jake called out tentatively. "Is anyone there?" His voice echoed oddly in the confined space. There was no response. Jake pushed himself to his feet, fighting a wave of dizziness. He ran his hands along the walls, searching for any kind of opening or control panel. The surface was perfectly smooth and slightly warm to the touch. Just as frustration began to set in, a section of the wall suddenly shimmered and vanished, revealing a long corridor beyond. Jake hesitated for a moment before cautiously stepping through the opening. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly in both directions, curving slightly so that he couldn't see where it led. The same pulsing purple light illuminated the passage. Jake picked a direction at random and began walking, his footsteps eerily silent on the metallic floor. After what felt like hours of walking, though it was impossible to tell how much time had actually passed, Jake finally saw something different ahead. The corridor opened up into a vast chamber, easily the size of a football stadium. And there, in the center of the room, was the most breathtaking and terrifying sight Jake had ever beheld. A massive alien creature towered before him, at least 15 feet tall. Its body was vaguely humanoid, with 4 arms and iridescent blue-green skin that seemed to shimmer and shift. But it was the alien's face that truly captivated Jake. 3 large, almond-shaped eyes regarded him with an intensity that made him feel utterly exposed. There was an undeniable intelligence in that gaze, mixed with something Jake couldn't quite define, curiosity perhaps, or hunger. "Welcome, human," the alien's voice boomed inside Jake's head, though its mouth didn't move. "I am Queen Zara of the Xaraxian Empire. You have been chosen." Jake's mind reeled as he tried to process what was happening. "Chosen? For what? Why am I here?" Queen Zara's eyes narrowed slightly. "You are here because your species has great potential, yet you squander it. The Xaraxians have watched your planet for millennia, waiting for the right moment to intervene. That moment has come." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Intervene how, exactly? "Your world stands on the brink of self-destruction," Queen Zara continued. "Left unchecked, humanity will tear itself apart within a few short generations. We intend to prevent that." "By abducting random people?" Jake asked, unable to keep the sarcasm from his voice despite his fear. To his surprise, Queen Zara's eyes crinkled in what he thought might be amusement. "You are far from random, Jake Miller. We have studied your species extensively, analyzed countless genetic profiles. You possess a unique combination of traits that make you ideal for our purposes." Jake's head was spinning. "What purposes? What do you want from me?" Queen Zara's gaze intensified. "We require a human representative to help guide your species towards a more enlightened path. Someone to bridge the gap between our civilizations and usher in a new era of cooperation and progress." Jake laughed nervously. "Look, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just a waiter from Ohio. I'm nobody special." You underestimate yourself, Queen Zara replied. The qualities we seek are not always obvious. Your adaptability, your empathy, your capacity for growth, these are the traits that drew our attention. Before Jake could respond, the air around them shimmered and suddenly they were no longer in the vast chamber. Instead, Jake found himself standing on what appeared to be an observation deck, looking out over an alien cityscape that took his breath away. Towering spires of crystal and metal stretched as far as the eye could see, their surfaces gleaming in the light of two distant suns. Strange aircraft zipped between the buildings, following invisible pathways. In the distance, Jake could make out what looked like massive biodomes, each one housing its own self-contained ecosystem. This is Parex Prime, Queen Zara's voice resonated in his mind. The heart of our empire, and soon to be your new home. Jake tore his gaze away from the awe-inspiring view to look at the alien queen. My new home. You can't be serious. I can't just leave Earth behind. Queen Zara's expression was unreadable. You must understand, Jake. The fate of your entire species hangs in the balance. We offer humanity a chance to join us among the stars, to evolve beyond your current limitations. But such a transition requires an intermediary, someone to guide your people and represent their interests. Jake shook his head, overwhelmed. Why me? Surely there are smarter people, more qualified people you could have chosen. Intelligence is not the only factor, Queen Zara replied. We require someone adaptable, someone who can bridge the gap between our vastly different cultures. Your background, your experiences, even your perceived ordinariness, these are assets, not liabilities. Jake turned back to the window, trying to process everything he was being told. Part of him was still convinced this was all some bizarre dream, that he'd wake up back in his tiny apartment any moment. But the airiness of his surroundings, the vastness of the city before him, it all felt far too real. What if I refuse? He asked quietly. Queen Zara was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her mental voice was tinged with sadness. Then humanity's fate is sealed. Without guidance, without the resources and knowledge we can provide, your species will destroy itself within a matter of decades. Is that truly what you want? Jake closed his eyes, feeling the weight of an impossible choice pressing down on him. Everything he had ever known, everyone he had ever loved, was back on Earth. How could he just abandon all of that? But if what Queen Zara said was true, if humanity really was on the brink of destruction, didn't he have a responsibility to try and prevent that, even if it meant sacrificing his own life and dreams in the process? I need time to think, Jake said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Queen Zara nodded, a gesture that looked strangely human coming from her alien form. Of course, this is not a decision to be made lightly. You will be given quarters where you can rest and contemplate your choice. But know this, Jake Miller, the fate of your entire species now rests in your hands. With those ominous words echoing in his mind, Jake felt himself being enveloped in that same strange blue light from earlier. The observation deck and the alien cityscape faded away, replaced by a smaller, more intimate room. The new space was clearly designed with human comfort in mind. There was a large bed, a sitting area with comfortable-looking chairs, and even what appeared to be a food replicator of some kind. One wall was transparent, offering a spectacular view of the alien world beyond. As Jake sank onto the edge of the bed, his mind raced with everything he had seen and learned. He was light years from home, being asked to make a decision that would affect the entire human race. It was too much to process all at once. Jake lay back on the bed, staring up at the unfamiliar ceiling. He had no idea how long he'd been awake at this point, but exhaustion suddenly hit him like a tidal wave. His last conscious thought before drifting off to sleep was a quiet plea to whatever forces might be listening. Please, let this all be a dream. But when Jake awoke an indeterminate time later, nothing had changed. He was still in the alien quarters, still faced with an impossible choice. As he sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, a gentle chime sounded. Jake Miller, Queen Zora's voice resonated in his mind. "I trust you have rested. Are you prepared to continue our discussion?" Jake took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "I'm ready," he replied, though he felt anything but. In a shimmer of blue light, he found himself once again standing before the towering form of Queen Zora. This time, they were in what appeared to be a lush garden, filled with alien plants in a riot of colors Jake had never seen before. A gentle breeze carried sweet, unfamiliar scents. "Walk with me," Queen Zara said, gesturing with one of her four arms. As they strolled along a winding path, she continued speaking. "I understand this is overwhelming for you. But you must understand the gravity of the situation. Your world stands at a crossroads, and the path you choose will determine the fate of countless billions." Jake nodded slowly. "I get that, but I'm still not sure why it has to be me. What makes me so special?" Queen Zora's three eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Jake was beginning to recognize as her equivalent of a thoughtful expression. Specialness is a human concept. We do not see individuals as inherently superior or inferior. Rather, we recognize that each being has unique qualities that make them suited for particular roles. She paused, allowing Jake to absorb her words before continuing. "In your case, it is not any one trait that makes you ideal, but rather the combination of many. Your adaptability, your empathy, your ability to see multiple perspectives. These are qualities that will be essential in bridging the gap between our civilizations." Jake considered this. It was true that he had always been good at adapting to new situations, at understanding where others were coming from even when he disagreed with them. But surely there were others who possessed those same traits. As if reading his thoughts, and for all Jake knew, maybe she could, Queen Zora spoke again. "There are others who might serve, yes, but you also possess something rarer. A balance between skepticism and openness. You question, you doubt, yet you are willing to consider new ideas. This balance is crucial for the role we envision." They had reached a small clearing where a fountain bubbled, the water a shimmering purple that seemed to defy gravity. Queen Zora gestured for Jake to sit on a nearby bench, which adjusted its shape to comfortably accommodate his human form. "I know this is not a decision you can make lightly," the alien queen said, her mental voice gentler now. "But time is not on our side. Even now, your world edges closer to catastrophe. We offer a chance to avert that fate, to guide humanity towards a brighter future among the stars, but we cannot do so without your help." Jake closed his eyes, trying to center himself. When he opened them again, he looked up at Queen Zora with determination. "I need to know more. About your people, about what exactly you're proposing. If I'm going to make this decision, I need all the facts." Queen Zora's eyes crinkled in what Jake was coming to recognize as a smile. "Of course. Ask your questions, Jake Miller. I will answer as fully and honestly as I can." And so, surrounded by the alien beauty of the Tyraxian garden, Jake began to learn about the civilization that held humanity's fate in its hands. With each answer, with each new piece of information, the weight of the choice before him grew heavier. But so too did his resolve to make the right decision, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. As the alien suns began to set, painting the sky in colors Jake had never imagined possible, he realized that his life would never be the same again. Whatever choice he made, he had been irrevocably changed by this encounter. The universe had suddenly become so much vaster, so much more complex than he had ever dreamed. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, he was up to the challenge after all. The alien queen's proposal. As the alien suns dipped below the horizon, casting the garden in ethereal twilight, Jake felt his mind reeling from everything he had learned. The Tyraxians were an ancient race, having explored the cosmos for millions of years. They had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, and now they saw humanity at a similar crossroads. "Your species has so much potential," Queen Zora's voice resonated in Jake's mind. "But you also stand on the brink of self-destruction. We offer a chance to guide you towards a better path." Jake ran a hand through his hair, still struggling to process it all. So what exactly are you proposing? You mentioned something about me being a representative. Queen Zara's eyes shimmered with an intensity that made Jake's breath catch. We propose a union, Jake Miller. A marriage of our two species, both literal and figurative. Jake blinked, sure he had misheard. I'm sorry, did you say marriage? Indeed, the alien queen continued. You would become my consort, ruling alongside me as we guide both our peoples into a new era of cooperation and progress. Jake's mind whirled. This was so far beyond anything he could have imagined. But I'm just a human. How could I possibly rule an alien empire? Queen Zara's mental voice softened. You would not be alone. I would be there to guide you, to teach you our ways. And in turn, you would help us understand humanity better. Your unique perspective would be invaluable as we work to bridge the gap between our civilizations. As Jake struggled to form a response, the air around them shimmered. Suddenly, they were no longer in the garden, but standing in what appeared to be a vast throne room. Two ornate chairs sat side by side on a raised dais, clearly meant for rulers. This could be our future, Queen Zara said, gesturing to the thrones. Together, we could usher in an age of unprecedented peace and prosperity for both our peoples. Jake's heart raced as he tried to imagine himself in such a position of power. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and utterly overwhelming all at once. But what about Earth, he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What about my family, my friends? Queen Zara's eyes crinkled in what Jake now recognized as an expression of sympathy. We understand the sacrifice we are asking of you, but consider the alternative. Without our intervention, humanity faces a bleak future. Climate collapse, resource wars, perhaps even nuclear annihilation. By accepting this role, you would be saving billions of lives. Jake closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. When he opened them again, he met Queen Zara's gaze with newfound determination. I need to see it, he said firmly. If I'm going to make this decision, I need to see Earth's future for myself, both with and without your intervention. Queen Zara nodded, a gesture that looked strange coming from her alien form. A wise request. We have the technology to show you probable futures based on current trajectories. Are you prepared for what you might see? Jake swallowed hard, then nodded. I'm ready. The throne room dissolved around them, replaced by a swirling vortex of energy. Jake felt as if he were falling and flying simultaneously, his consciousness stretched across time and space. Suddenly, he was standing on a street he recognized as his hometown, but it was changed almost beyond recognition. The air was thick with smog, making it difficult to breathe. Buildings lay in ruins, and gaunt-faced people huddled in the shadows, eyeing him suspiciously. This is Earth, 50 years from now. Without our intervention, Queen Zara's voice echoed in his mind. Global temperatures have risen by 4 degrees Celsius. Coastal cities are underwater, agriculture has collapsed in many regions, and billions have been displaced by climate disasters and resource wars. Jake watched in horror as scenes flashed before his eyes. Massive refugee camps stretching as far as the eye could see, armed guards protecting dwindling food supplies, wildfires consuming entire continents. Just as it became too much to bear, the scene shifted. Now Jake found himself in a gleaming city that seamlessly blended human and Cyraxian architecture. People walked side by side with alien beings, their faces bright and hopeful. In the distance, he could see massive terraforming projects underway, restoring damaged ecosystems. This is the potential future with our alliance, Queen Zara explained. Humanity gains access to advanced technology, allowing you to reverse climate change and end resource scarcity. Your understanding of the universe expands exponentially, and you take your place among the galactic community. Jake watched in awe as holographic displays showed human scientists working alongside Cyraxians, making breakthrough discoveries. He saw starships with human and alien crew members embarking on joint exploration missions. It was a future beyond his wildest dreams. As the visions faded and they returned to the throne room, Jake felt a profound sense of clarity. The choice before him was monumental, but seeing those potential futures had crystallized things in his mind. "If I agree to this," he said slowly, turning to face Queen Zara, "I need assurances. Humanity maintains its autonomy. We work together as equals, not as conquerors and subjects." Queen Zara's eyes gleamed with what Jake thought might be approval. "Of course, we have no desire to rule over humanity. Our goal is cooperation, mutual benefit. You would be instrumental in ensuring that balance is maintained." Jake took a deep breath, his decision made. "Then I accept. I'll become your consort, for the sake of both our peoples." The alien queen's form seemed to glow with an inner light. "You have made a wise choice, Jake Miller. Together, we will forge a future brighter than either of our species could achieve alone." As those words resonated in his mind, Jake felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as if the very fabric of reality was shifting around him, acknowledging the monumental decision he had just made. In that moment, standing before the alien queen who was to be his wife, Jake realized that his life as an ordinary human was over. A new chapter was beginning, one that would shape the destiny of 2 civilizations and countless billions of lives. The enormity of it all threatened to overwhelm him, but Jake steeled himself. He had been chosen for this role, whether by chance or cosmic design. Now it was up to him to rise to the challenge and become the leader both humanity and the Xaraxians needed him to be. As if sensing his resolve, Queen Zara extended one of her 4 hands towards him. "Come, my future consort. We have much to prepare." Jake reached out and took her hand, marveling at the strange texture of her skin. As their fingers intertwined, he felt a jolt of energy pass between them, as if their very beings were beginning to synchronize. "I'm ready," he said, surprised by the steadiness in his voice. "Show me what I need to know." With a shimmer of light, the throne room dissolved around them. Jake's journey from ordinary human to intergalactic leader was truly beginning, and the fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance. Adapting to an alien world. The days that followed Jake's momentous decision passed in a whirlwind of activity. He found himself thrust into an intensive crash course on Xaraxian culture, politics, and technology. His mind struggled to absorb the vast amounts of information, but he was surprised to find that he adapted more quickly than he would have thought possible. One morning, as Jake stood before a holographic display of the Xaraxian solar system, trying to memorize the names of its 17 planets, he felt a familiar presence enter his mind. "You are progressing well, my consort." Queen Zara's mental voice resonated with approval. Jake turned to face her, still in awe of her otherworldly beauty. "It's overwhelming, but fascinating. Though I have to admit, I'm a bit worried about the upcoming coronation ceremony. I'm not sure I'm ready to face your people." Queen Zara's eyes crinkled in what Jake now recognized as amusement. "Few are ever truly ready for the mantle of leadership, Jake, but you have shown remarkable adaptability. I have faith in you." As they walked together through the winding corridors of the royal palace, Jake marveled at how quickly this alien world was becoming familiar to him. The bioluminescent plants that lined the halls, the gravity fluctuations that allowed for effortless movement between levels, even the telepathic interfaces that responded to his thoughts, all of it was slowly becoming second nature. "There is something we must discuss," Queen Zara said, her mental tone turning serious. "The coronation will involve a ritual that will change you." Jake felt a flutter of anxiety in his chest. "Change me? How?" They had reached a secluded balcony overlooking the sprawling capital city. Queen Zara turned to face him, her expression solemn. "To truly rule alongside me, to connect with our people and access the full capabilities of our technology, you must undergo a transformation. We will infuse you with Xaraxian DNA, enhancing your physical and mental abilities." Jake's mind reeled at the implications. "Will I still be me?" Queen Zara's mental voice softened. "Your core essence, your memories and personality will remain intact, but you will become something more, a bridge between our species in the truest sense. As Jake struggled to process this information, a commotion in the city below caught his attention. A crowd had gathered in the main square, their voices raised in what sounded like protest. "What's going on?" Jake asked, leaning over the balcony railing. Queen Zara's eyes narrowed. "There is a faction among our people who oppose our union. They fear that integrating with humanity will dilute our culture, weaken our species. We must tread carefully." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had been so focused on adapting to his new role that he had almost forgotten the monumental nature of what they were attempting. Of course, there would be resistance. "How do we address their concerns?" he asked, already slipping into his role as a leader. Queen Zara's eyes gleamed with approval at his question. "That, my consort, is precisely why you are here. Your human perspective, combined with your growing understanding of our ways, will be crucial in finding a path forward." As they stood there, watching the crowd below, Jake felt the weight of his responsibility settle more firmly on his shoulders. He was no longer just Jake Miller from Ohio. He was becoming something more, something unprecedented in the history of either species. "I have an idea," he said slowly, a plan forming in his mind. "But it's going to require taking a big risk." Queen Zara tilted her head, curiosity evident in her posture. "Speak your mind, consort. Your ideas are why you were chosen." Jake took a deep breath, then outlined his plan. As he spoke, he saw Queen Zara's eyes widen, then crinkle in what he now knew was a smile of approval. "Bold," she said when he had finished. "Potentially dangerous, but it could work. You continue to surprise me, Jake Miller." With a new sense of purpose, Jake squared his shoulders. "Then let's do it. It's time to show both our peoples what this union can really mean." As they turned to leave the balcony, Jake caught his reflection in a polished surface. He hardly recognized himself anymore, not just because of the alien clothing he wore, but because of the confidence and determination he saw in his own eyes. He was changing, evolving into something new. And soon, if his plan worked, both humanity and the Tyrexians would begin a similar transformation. The next few days were a flurry of preparation. Jake threw himself into learning everything he could about Cyraxian politics, social structures, and the specific concerns of the opposition faction. He worked tirelessly with Queen Zara and her advisors, refining his plan and preparing for every possible contingency. On the morning of the coronation, Jake stood before a mirror in his chambers, hardly recognizing the figure that stared back at him. He was draped in ceremonial robes that seemed to shimmer with an inner light, intricate patterns swirling across the fabric in a hypnotic dance. But it was his eyes that truly caught his attention. They seemed to glow with an inner fire, a hint of the transformation to come. A gentle chime indicated Queen Zara's arrival. As she entered the room, Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. She was resplendent in her own ceremonial attire, her alien beauty magnified to an almost painful degree. "Are you ready, my consort?" Her mental voice was soft, tinged with an emotion Jake couldn't quite identify. Jake nodded, squaring his shoulders. "As ready as I'll ever be. Let's make history." Together, they made their way to the great hall where the coronation would take place. The room was packed with Cyraxian dignitaries, their multifaceted eyes all fixed on the unlikely pair. Jake could feel the tension in the air, the mixture of curiosity, hope, and trepidation. As they approached the days where the ritual would take place, Jake saw the leaders of the opposition faction watching him closely. This was it, the moment that would determine the future of both their species. Queen Zara began the ceremony, her mental voice resonating throughout the hall. But as she reached the point where Jake was to be transformed, he stepped forward, raising his hand in a gesture he had learned meant, "I seek to speak." A murmur rippled through the crowd. This was not part of the traditional ceremony. Queen Zara tilted her head, curiosity evident in her posture, but she nodded for Jake to proceed. Taking a deep breath, Jake began to speak, his words translated and broadcast telepathically to all present. "People of Tyrex," he began, his voice steady despite the nerves fluttering in his stomach. I stand before you not just as a human, but as a symbol of the unprecedented union our species are about to embark upon. I understand that some of you have reservations, fears about what this might mean for your culture and your future. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. Those concerns are valid. Change is always frightening, especially when it comes to the very essence of who we are. But I propose that instead of fearing this change, we embrace it as an opportunity for growth, for evolution beyond anything either of our species have experienced before. Jake gestured to the crowd, his eyes meeting those of the opposition leaders. I am willing to undergo the transformation, to become a bridge between our peoples. But I ask that you too be willing to open yourselves to change. Let us approach this union not as two separate species, but as fellow sentient beings seeking to create something greater than the sum of our parts. A hushed silence fell over the hall as Jake's words hung in the air. Then, slowly, one of the opposition leaders stepped forward. You speak well, human. The Ataraxian's mental voice was gruff but not unkind. But words are easy. How can we trust that this union will truly benefit both our peoples equally? Jake smiled, having anticipated this question. You're right to ask for more than just words. That's why I propose this. Let the transformation be a two-way process. As I am infused with Cyraxian DNA, let a volunteer from your faction be infused with human DNA. Together, we will be the living embodiment of our union, able to truly understand and represent both perspectives. A shocked murmur ran through the crowd. What Jake was proposing was unheard of, a radical departure from anything that Cyraxians had considered. Queen Zara's eyes widened, but Jake saw approval and perhaps even pride in her gaze. For a long moment, silence reigned in the hall. Then, to Jake's immense relief, the opposition leader stepped forward again. Your proposal is unexpected, the Azraxian said slowly, but it shows a wisdom and fairness we did not anticipate. I will volunteer for this exchange. A ripple of excitement ran through the crowd. Queen Zara stepped forward, her mental voice filled with emotion. Let it be so, she declared. This day marks not just a union between two individuals, but a true merging of our species. May it lead us all towards a brighter future. As the ceremony resumed, now altered to include this unprecedented exchange, Jake felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had taken a huge risk, but it had paid off. The path ahead would not be easy, but he had laid the groundwork for true cooperation and understanding. As he prepared to undergo the transformation that would forever change him, Jake caught Queen Zara's eye. The pride and affection he saw there filled him with warmth. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, not just as leaders, but as pioneers of a new era for both their peoples. The ritual began, and Jake felt the first tingles of alien energy flowing into him. As his very DNA began to rewrite itself, he embraced the change, ready to become something entirely new, a true bridge between worlds. Rising tensions and rebellion. The months following Jake's coronation and unprecedented genetic exchange were a whirlwind of activity. As he adjusted to his new hybrid physiology, Jake found himself capable of feats he had never imagined possible. His mind could process information at lightning speed, he could communicate telepathically with ease, and his physical strength and agility had increased exponentially. But more importantly, Jake now understood the Xaraxians on a fundamental level. Their hopes, fears, and desires were no longer alien to him. This deep empathy proved invaluable as he and Queen Zara worked tirelessly to integrate their two species. However, not all was smooth sailing in this new era of cooperation. One day, as Jake was reviewing plans for a joint human-Cyraxian research facility on Mars, an urgent message interrupted his thoughts. Consort Jake, the mental voice of his chief advisor, Xilthar, rang out. We have a situation developing on Earth that requires your immediate attention. Jake's brow furrowed as he absorbed the information Xilthar was transmitting. A group of human extremists, fearful of the changes brought about by the alliance with the Xaraxians, had launched a series of attacks on newly established alien embassies. "This is exactly what we were afraid of," Jake muttered, his mind racing. "We need to respond quickly, but carefully. Any show of force could escalate the situation." He turned to Queen Zara, who had been silently observing. "I need to go to Earth," he said firmly. "This is a human problem, and they need to see that I'm still one of them, despite my changes." Queen Zara's eyes crinkled in concern. "It could be dangerous, my love. These extremists may see you as a traitor to your species." Jake nodded gravely. "That's a risk we have to take. The alliance is too important to fail because of fear and misunderstanding." Within hours, Jake found himself aboard a sleek Asarexian shuttle, hurtling towards Earth at speeds that still boggled his mind. As he watched his home planet grow larger in the viewscreen, he felt a complex mix of emotions. Earth seemed simultaneously familiar and alien to him now, a reminder of how much he had changed. The shuttle touched down in Geneva, where the main Sarexian embassy had been established. As Jake emerged, he was immediately struck by the tension in the air. Human security forces formed a protective cordon around the embassy, while a crowd of protesters shouted angrily in the distance. Jake took a deep breath, straightened his shoulders, and began to walk towards the crowd. His security detail moved to stop him, but he waved them off. "I need to do this," he said firmly. "They need to see me to understand that I'm still human." As he approached, the crowd's shouting intensified. Jake could hear their fears and anger clearly, both in their voices and in the stray thoughts that his enhanced mind picked up. Traitor. Human sellout. Earth for humans only. Jake raised his hands, calling for silence. To his surprise, the crowd quieted, their curiosity momentarily overriding their anger. "My fellow humans," Jake began, his voice carrying easily across the square. "I understand your fears. Change is scary, especially when it comes so quickly and dramatically. But I stand before you as living proof that humanity has not lost itself in this alliance. We have gained so much." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. Some were angry, others confused, and a few showed glimmers of hope. "I was born on this planet, just like you," Jake continued. "I grew up in a small town in Ohio, dreaming of the stars but never imagining I'd actually reach them. Now, thanks to our alliance with its Araxians, those dreams are becoming reality not just for me, but for all of humanity." As he spoke, Jake felt a familiar presence touch his mind. Queen Zara, watching from afar, sending her support and love. It gave him strength to continue. "Look around you," Jake gestured to the city. "In the few short months since our alliance began, we've already seen incredible advancements. Diseases once thought incurable are being eradicated. Our understanding of the universe has expanded exponentially, and this is just the beginning." He could sense the crowd's mood shifting, that anger giving way to uncertainty and, in some cases, genuine curiosity. "But we haven't lost what makes us human," Jake pressed on. "Our creativity, our passion, our relentless drive to explore and understand. These are the very qualities that drew the Araxians to us. They don't want to change who we are. They want to help us become the best version of ourselves." As Jake continued to speak, sharing stories of the incredible discoveries and advancements being made through human-Araxian cooperation, he felt the tide of public opinion beginning to turn. It wasn't a complete victory. There were still those who clung to their fears and anger. But for many in the crowd, seeds of hope and excitement were being planted. Just as Jake felt he was making real progress, a commotion erupted at the edge of the crowd. A group of armed extremists, unwilling to listen to reason, had decided to take more drastic action. Time seemed to slow as Jake's enhanced senses took in the scene. He saw the glint of a weapon being raised, heard the sharp intake of breath from the would-be assassin. Without conscious thought, Jake's body moved, faster than any normal human could. He intercepted the attacker just as the weapon fired, his enhanced strength allowing him to disarm the man with ease. The crowd gasped in awe and fear as they witnessed Jake's superhuman display. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, to Jake's surprise, applause broke out. The very abilities that the extremists feared had just saved lives, demonstrating in the most visceral way possible the benefits of the human-Cyraxian alliance. As security forces moved in to apprehend the attackers, Jake addressed the crowd once more. "This is the choice before us," he said, his voice ringing with conviction. "We can cling to fear and suspicion, lashing out at what we don't understand. Or we can embrace this opportunity, working together to create a future brighter than anything we've ever imagined." He gestured to the stars, just becoming visible in the darkening sky. "The universe is vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond our comprehension. We can face it alone, or we can stand together with allies who have already navigated its complexities for millions of years. The choice is ours." As Jake's words hung in the air, he felt a shift in the collective consciousness of the crowd. It wasn't universal acceptance, that would take time, but it was a start, a willingness to consider new possibilities. Later that night, as Jake prepared to return to Xarax, he received a mental communication from Queen Zara. "You have done well, my love," her thoughts caressed his mind. "But this is only the beginning. There are forces at work that seek to undermine everything we've built." Jake nodded gravely, gazing out at the earth below. "I know, but we've taken the first steps towards true understanding. Whatever challenges lie ahead, we'll face them together, humans and Cyraxians united." As the shuttle lifted off, carrying him back to his new home among the stars, Jake felt a complex mix of emotions. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be more resistance, more challenges to overcome. But for the first time since this incredible journey began, he felt truly confident in his role. He was no longer just Jake Miller from Ohio, nor was he simply the alien queen's consort. He had become something new, a true bridge between worlds. And with that realization came a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had ever known. The stars streaked by as the shuttle accelerated, carrying Jake towards his destiny. The next chapter in this intergalactic saga was about to unfold, and he was ready to meet it head-on. The final battle and aftermath. As Jake's shuttle approached Xarax, an ominous sight greeted him. The planet's shimmering defensive barrier was active, and a massive fleet of unknown ships loomed in orbit. His heart raced as he realized the grave situation unfolding before him. "Consort Jake," Tazalvar's urgent mental voice echoed in his mind. "We are under attack by the Void Collective, a rival alien force that opposes our alliance with humanity. They seek to destroy what we've built." Jake's enhanced mind quickly processed the tactical information flooding in. The Void Collective was a mysterious and highly advanced civilization, long considered a myth by most Cyraxians. Their sudden appearance threatened everything he and Queen Zara had worked for. As the shuttle docked in the royal hangar, Jake was met by a grim-faced Queen Zara. Her usual radiant presence was tempered by the gravity of the situation. "My love," she greeted him, her mental voice tinged with worry. "The Void Collective has issued an ultimatum. They demand we sever all ties with humanity or face annihilation." Jake's jaw clenched. "That's not an option. We've come too far to back down now." Queen Zara nodded, a fierce pride gleaming in her eyes. "I knew you would say that. Come, we must address our people and prepare for battle." As they made their way to the grand communication chamber, Jake's mind raced with strategies. His unique blend of human ingenuity and Cyraxian knowledge might just give them an edge in this conflict. The chamber was abuzz with activity as military leaders and advisors frantically coordinated defense efforts. Jake and Queen Zara took their places on the central platform, their images projected across the planet and to the human colonies throughout the solar system. "People of Xarax and Earth," Queen Zara began, her mental voice resonating with strength and determination. "We face a grave threat from those who fear the power of our alliance. The Void Collective seeks to tear us apart, to force us back into isolation, but we will not yield." Jake stepped forward, his voice joining with Zora's in a powerful unity. Humanity and Xyraxians have only begun to discover what we can achieve together. Our differences make us stronger. Our combined knowledge and skills are forced to be reckoned with. We will not let fear and prejudice destroy what we've built. As they spoke, Jake felt a surge of energy unlike anything he'd experienced before. The hybrid DNA flowing through his veins seemed to resonate with the collective will of both species. Suddenly, he understood what needed to be done. "We have a plan," Jake announced, his eyes blazing with newfound purpose. "But it will require the trust and cooperation of every human and Xyraxian. Together we will show the Void Collective the true power of unity." Over the next few hours, Jake and Queen Zara outlined their daring strategy. It was a plan that combined Xyraxian advanced technology with human unpredictability and adaptability. Every ship, every weapon, every individual would play a crucial role. As the Void Collective's massive fleet began its assault on Xyrax's defenses, the combined human-Xyraxian force sprang into action. Sleek Xyraxian battle cruisers flew in perfect formation with retrofitted human vessels, their movements synchronized in ways that confused and disoriented the enemy. Jake found himself at the heart of the battle, coordinating efforts from the flagship alongside Queen Zara. His enhanced mind allowed him to process the chaotic flow of information from countless sources, making split-second decisions that turned the tide of battle again and again. But the Void Collective was formidable. Their technology was unlike anything either humans or Xyraxians had encountered before. Dark energy weapons tore through shields, and gravity wells threatened to crush entire squadrons. Just when it seemed the tide was turning against them, Jake had an epiphany. "The quantum entanglement drive," he exclaimed. "If we can modify it to create a massive interdimensional rift, we might be able to trap the Void Collective's fleet between realities." Queen Zara's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. It was an insane plan, one that risked tearing apart the fabric of space-time itself. But in that moment, they both knew it was their only hope. As the order went out, every available ship equipped with the experimental drive moved into position. The air crackled with energy as an enormous rift began to form, its swirling vortex growing larger by the second. The Void Collective, realizing too late the trap they'd fallen into, attempted to retreat. But the combined gravitational pull of the rift and the coordinated efforts of the human Xyraxian fleet proved too much. With a blinding flash and a thunderous roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of reality, the rift collapsed in on itself, taking the bulk of the Void Collective's fleet with it. In an instant, the tide of battle had turned decisively. As the remaining enemy ships fled or surrendered, a deafening cheer erupted across every communication channel. Humans and Xyraxians alike celebrated their shared victory, the bonds between their species stronger than ever. In the aftermath of the battle, as the adrenaline faded and the true scale of what they'd accomplished sank in, Jake found a quiet moment alone with Queen Zara on the observation deck of their flagship. "We did it," he breathed, still scarcely able to leave it. "We faced an enemy that threatened everything we've built, and we came out stronger." Queen Zara's eyes shimmered with emotion as she gazed at him. "It is because of you, my love. Your unique perspective, your ability to bridge our two species, it made all the difference." Jake shook his head, smiling softly. "No, it's because of us. What we've created together is greater than either of us could have achieved alone. And I think we've only scratched the surface of what's possible." As they stood there, looking out at the stars that now seemed full of limitless potential, Jake felt a profound sense of purpose wash over him. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be more challenges, more threats to face. But he knew with absolute certainty that together, humanity and the Xyraxians could overcome anything. "So," Jake said, a glint of excitement in his eyes, "what's our next adventure?" Queen Zara's mental laughter bubbled through their bond. "Oh, my dear consort, we have an entire universe to explore, and I can't think of anyone I'd rather have by my side for the journey." As their ship set course for home, Jake realized that home now meant something far greater than he could have ever imagined. It wasn't just Earth or XRX, it was the vast expanse of space itself and the incredible future they were building together. The saga of humanity's ascension to the stars had only just begun, and Jake Miller, once an ordinary waiter from Ohio, now the hybrid consort to an alien queen, was at the very heart of it all. Whatever wonders or dangers awaited them in the cosmic ocean, he was ready to face them head-on, hand in hand, with the extraordinary being he had come to love. As the ship accelerated to faster-than-light speeds, Jake allowed himself a moment of reflection. From an abducted human to a key player in an intergalactic alliance, his journey had been nothing short of miraculous. And yet, he knew that the greatest adventures still lay ahead. With a smile on his face and the warm presence of Queen Zara in his mind, Jake looked to the stars, ready for whatever the universe had in store for them next.